Hello everybody. So we are about to start this roundtable about recycled textiles. You can have a direct translation in both French and English. You just have to ask headsets to the lady here in white. Okay, so I'm very pleased to welcome today different speakers from different sides of the industry. So first we have Thibaut Ledunois from ethiwork. And then we have Aslan from NOOSA, which is a very interesting startup. Andreas Bartl from SCIRT. I don't know if I pronounce well the name of the company, well, but you will explain us what it is.
The company is TU Wien, so it's
yes,
Vienna
okay,
University
yes.
of
And
Technology.
the European project is, okay. Mustafain Munir from CYCLO, recycled fibers by SIMCO Spinning and Textiles. Nin Castle, Reverse Resources. Christèle Merter, La Gentle Factory. Can you introduce yourself in 3 minutes, each of you? Maybe we can start in this by you, Thibaut, yes, and finish by you, Mustafain. Thank you.
So I will switch in French and English, depending if I'm comfortable or not. So I'm basically a sustainable consultant. I'm working with fashion and jewelry brands and manufacturers about their impacts, both environmental and social impact. I'm basically activist in another side of my life, and yeah, we're working in all the range of impact from sourcing, and we will talk about textile and sourcing issues, but also in communication and also governance, really big range of impact. And we are also invested in training, because a lot of professionals in textile and luxury have to learn about their impact in terms of climate, biodiversity, but also diversity and social equity. So yes, we are based in Paris, in La Caserne, which is a famous place linked to sustainability. And also I have another work. It's head of partnership in Fédération de la Mode Circulaire, which is a new organization to gather all actors of fashion and circular fashion around impacts.
Thank you. Luna?
Hello, my name is Aslan. I'm the co-founder of NOOSA. So NOOSA is a startup based in Belgium that produces textile fiber made from corn, for which we've developed the technology to recycle it at 100% at the end of life. So it's 100% bio-based and 100% recyclable, thanks to our patented technology. So this looks like this, basically. This is the product we developed. And then we also spin it into a yarn. And my t-shirt can be one of the applications, just to show people basically what is possible to be done. Today, our biggest market are, of course, clothing and apparel, but it can also be way more technical applications. So this we also show it. And so our technology is able to separate our fiber from any type of contaminant, whether it is a pigment, other material blend, such as cotton or elastan, or any coatings, anything. So voilà.
Thank you. For the samples, if you want to see it after, you can ask Luna, and we let it on the table so that you can have a look on it. Andrea?
Yeah, hello, my name is Andreas. I come from TU Wien, which is basically Vienna University of Technology. And well, from my background, I'm a chemical engineer, and I work in the field of fiber recycling since 20 years. And the good thing is, 4 years ago, this topic was planting orchids, so no one was interested. But since, let's say, 4 years, this topic is quite hot, and I think this is a good thing. The bad thing is that still we have a lot of things to improve. So we have to start at the collection. So we do not sufficiently collect textiles. We do not yet consider design for recycling. And still, I think we need to, well, how to say it in a nice word, fast fashion should be out of fashion.
Thank you. We will have a conversation about it, I guess, just after. So, Christèle.
Yes, I'm
en français.
Ah oui, je peux parler en français, c'est vrai. Ce sera plus simple pour moi. Donc, je suis Christèle, je suis la fondatrice de la Gentle Factory. La Gentle Factory, on est une marque de mode éco-responsable. On est né il y a 10 ans. On a vécu 3 vies. On a été incubé dans un grand groupe de retail. Ensuite, on est devenu une marque à part. On est né comme un label éco-responsable. On est ensuite devenu une marque à part entière où on a commencé à designer et à vendre par nous-mêmes nos propres produits. Et ensuite, j'ai racheté l'entreprise il y a 4 ans maintenant et on vit une indépendance. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait en clair? On est une marque de mode éco-responsable. On est né de l'idée qu'on pouvait peut-être récupérer les vêtements en fin de vie de nos clients, les retransformer en matière première et en refaire des vêtements. Et donc, du coup, on a toujours eu des fibres recyclées issues soit de nos chutes de coton, soit de nos vêtements en fin de vie pour en refaire des nouveaux vêtements. Et puis maintenant, aujourd'hui, avec nos chutes de coton, on les broie et on les inclut dans des nouveaux matériaux pour en refaire des matériaux rigides.
Très bien. Nin.
Bonjour, je suis Nin. I am co-founder of a company called Reverse Resources. It's a software as a service platform where we map, steer and trace textile waste streams. So our aim is to become the infrastructure to support the scaling of circular supply chains. We work across many countries, a lot in Asia, a lot with Musti. We've currently mapped textile waste from over 20 countries. We're tracing currently 250 tons a month of textile waste through the platform, and we're scaling a lot at the moment in new locations. And we're also working a lot with the emerging chemical recyclers as well as the scaling mechanical recyclers to help identify where the textile waste is, help them organize it, categorize it, and build that a very efficient supply chain with them. A lot of the work we're doing more and more as well is with the formalization of waste handlers, so building codes of conduct for waste handlers, particularly important with post-industrial waste because these companies are varying levels of informality and rather unregulated, and of course you have some issues with the standards of work within factories, and the waste handling sector is a whole other level. And when we're talking about inclusivity in the circular supply chain, this is a critical piece that doesn't really get talked about. So we work with the waste handlers, both in Asia for post-industrial waste and also with post-consumer sorters and collectors in Europe.
Thank you.
To be here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yes, I'm Mustafain Munir. I'm the director of CYCLO Recycled Fibers and SIMCO Spinning and Textiles. So why we have the two names even is that SIMCO Spinning Textiles, we started about 10 years ago. So we were the first and we're still the largest mechanical recycler in Bangladesh. And so based from the SIMCO recycling, we've developed CYCLO Recycled Fibers as a brand kind of to spread awareness about recycled cotton and its benefits. And most importantly, kind of where we've been specialized in is the actual application of those recycled fibers back into garments rather than being downcycled into insulation materials or incinerated. So with that being said, we've had quite a bit of success working with, fortunately, unfortunately, the fast fashion retailers. They're quite big customers of ours. So we're working a lot with them to how to incorporate more recycled fibers into their collections. Right now we do about 500 tons of recycled cotton a month, and it's all being upcycled back into the fashion industry, I guess you can say it. I'm glad that she brought up that she's wearing her stuff first, because I'm also wearing my thing now. So this suit is made from recycled cotton and recycled polyester. So thank you for doing that first. And yeah, like I said, Nin said, we work very closely together to map the waste supply chains and to kind of see where the best application of waste is to be recycled, and most importantly, where it can be used actually properly. Because there's two things. One is recycling, taking our waste or our used clothes and making it into the fiber. The second step actually is getting that back into the garment value chain, which is really where our focus is at.
Thank you. So what is amazing is that you are all coming from very different stage and scale of the industry and business. So my first question for you is, what challenges are innovation efforts focusing on for better recyclability of textiles currently? Who know something about it and want to provide an answer to this question?
I could have a first jab. For us, one of the key issues is the way that waste is handled. Our tagline as a company is redefining waste as resource, and when waste is handled as waste, it is generally less recyclable. So when you're talking about post-industrial waste, it is really essential that recyclable waste is segregated at source in the factory, on the cutting table, in the mill, and labeled properly so that it can then reach the best recycling use case. As soon as textile waste is mixed up, it loses its value instantly. And this is something that we always try and tell the industry. People say, we can't do very much, what can we do? It's like, just segregate the recyclable waste at this stage. That's already a huge, huge win. Yeah, that would be one of the biggest market barriers, I'd say, today.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mustafain?
Okay, so like I said, Nin and I work very closely together because you know, she's helping a lot in the segregation and the tracing and getting to the brass tacks of what's actually in the waste in terms of cotton, polyester, lycra, and things like that. So since post-industrial, pre-consumer is getting a little bit towards like a maturity stage where like mechanical recycling has been around like decades. Like my machines are actually older than I am. So like there's grades of things that can be recovered. There's like, you know, the best grade, which is like 100% cotton jersey waste. And then there's the worst grade, which is like, you know, 5 different blends that's super stretchy, like your yoga pants, stuff like that. Like that, I don't see any hope for. So the benefit of a mono material is that you know what's in it and you know how to recycle it if that technology is available, like 100% cotton. You have chemical processes, you have mechanical processes. What do you do with that 95-5, which is that 95% cotton, 5% elastane? You have chemical technologies that can separate it out, but the elastane comes out as a waste material. Then you have technologies that can separate out cellulosic from synthetic. The thing is, at what percentage and what is their selling point? Are they selling the cellulosic portion or are you selling the synthetic portion? So once you go into you know, multi-blend materials is really where the challenge raises itself. And I have a lot more to say about this stuff, but I'm going to let Andreas kind of take
Continue.
over.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the previous speakers, I can fully agree that collection and segregation is important, but not only for post-industrial, but also for post-consumer, which is the big amount we have in Europe. And yes, we have complex compositions, which is a problem. And even if we had a lot of tests, of course there are certain developments now. We can use near-infrared technology to separate, but not currently not in a precision we need. And if you look to the label, maybe the jeans says 100% cotton. Yes, it's 100% cotton, but the sewing yarn is most likely polyester, and then it depends on the recycling process if this sewing yarn will block the filters if you remelt the polyester. So, and the next thing is all the dye stuff. We at least have 1,000 different dye stuffs, and you have no idea which dye stuff is in. Even in cotton, you have different dyeing technologies. You can have reactive dyes, and you can have particles that are trapped, and so you need totally different technologies to de-dye or to remove these dye stuff. So yes, I think information, let's say traceability would be, it's also in the EU textile strategy, the digital passport bus, and if there is more information available, this would help for the recycling. That's the first step. Information. The second step should be less complex compositions, but I think customers want some function, and this is the more tricky thing.
Luna?
Sure. I agree, but like to have a better composition, I think that first it's very important to educate like the whole textile value chain and also the end customer, as you just mentioned, and really push for a monomaterial, because in the end it will help everyone in the industry to recycle, no matter if it's chemical, mechanical, anything. And for some very specific properties that you just mentioned, there is like a blend would be needed, but for a lot of application, actually, we see that it's only like price related, that you have a blend of 5 different materials, and that doesn't bring any added value to the product itself. And then to go on your second point, I think we should invest also in the sorting technologies that you just mentioned, so that it will allow a better like segregation simply of the materials and recover a higher percentage rates. So yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. So here is my second question. What do you think are the most promising recycled and recyclable textile today? And what are the current main developments to follow according to you? I'm asking this question because maybe we have among the audience brands that would like to choose the best materials, and so I'm interested to know what would be those new materials that you could recommend them.
Can I start?
Yours.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, maybe because I'm in that business, I think there's really a big interest in following bio-based fiber and recyclable one. I think we should have a mix of recyclable and recycle, because I mean, if we want to move towards like a more eco-friendly materials, we can have a mix, but definitely. Yeah, bio-based fiber that ensure recyclability. It's also like tackling the problem on the longer run and make sure that that our products will be recyclable. So yeah.
Well, you want
okay.
to?
Sure. Yes, she's absolutely right. I love the point that she made between recycled materials and recyclable materials, because 100% cotton t-shirt, whether that be organic, BCI, or just virgin, is not made from recycled materials, but it is the easiest material to recycle. So in my 10 years, whatever you want to call it, I'm not a proponent of getting rid of cotton. I like organic cotton. I think it's right. I think we still want cotton in our supply chain. It has that stuff that we need. So when it comes to then recycled materials in your value stream, how many times can it be recycled is a question I get all the time. And let me just say, like, okay, if I'm in my material with my technology, I can probably give it one more go around. And then I would hope that the chemical recyclers could take it for another go around, and then maybe it comes back to me for a mechanical go around. So maybe it's not a complete solution, but at least we're buying time and prolonging the life of virgin materials. But then the question really goes back to resource utilization aside from the fiber itself, and the biggest thing these days is power. Nobody's talking about power right now. It is a crisis. What's happening in the Ukraine, what's happening with gas shortages, things like that. And especially when we're talking about scale and industrial scale, renewables is tough to adapt when you're dealing with manufacturing because you need consistent power 24/7. Again, this is a longer conversation about the actual brass tacks numbers. How much water did you use? How much carbon did you emit? I'm just going to talk about those two things in terms of sustainability. But yeah, you're right. But then also the thing about cellulosic versus synthetic, or natural fiber versus a man-made fiber. A natural fiber, throughout its lifetime, it does degrade in quality, and also a synthetic material does degrade in quality during the recycling process, but they degrade in different rates. So it's a complex situation there. Yeah.
Christèle?
Alors, la question elle est complexe. Nous on prend du coton pour le retransformer en coton, donc ça n'a rien de très innovant. Mais pour autant, nous on n'utilise que de la transformation mécanique, pas chimique. Et ce qui fait que du coup on a des fibres extrêmement courtes, et c'est ce qui fait que quand on a des fibres extrêmement courtes, on est obligé de rajouter une autre fibre longue, en l'occurrence c'est du polyester, issu également par contre du recyclage, et donc on vient générer de la pollution par microplastique. Donc en fait, voilà, tout ça pour dire que dans les enjeux, il y a qu'est-ce qu'on veut en faire, et il y a finalement des enjeux également de risque de transfert de pollution. Et on faisait des choses il y a 10 ans sans savoir que ça existait. Aujourd'hui, on sait que ça existe, et donc du coup, c'est quelles autres solutions on peut apporter. Donc nous, c'est la raison pour laquelle du coup on a changé de technique en se disant, on ne dit pas que le coton recyclé, quand on le mélange, et on continue à faire des produits fabriqués à partir de coton recyclé et de polyester recyclé, mais pour autant on a dit qu'on ne voulait plus générer davantage de pollution, et donc du coup on a cherché d'autres alternatives. Et là je rejoins sur l'industrialisation de la filière, parce que du coup on a sorti une gamme de vases faits à partir de coton qu'on a micronisé, dans lequel on est venu rajouter de la résine recyclée. Donc là, à la limite, notre vase normalement est durable éternellement, donc on n'a même pas d'enjeu de recyclage. Mais bon, pour autant, l'industrialisation, ça a été 18 mois de développement, on se retrouve seul. Enfin, il y a des enjeux de filière, de collecte, d'industrialisation et de soutien de nos partenaires aussi, qui se retrouvent du coup avec des déchets pour qui c'est vachement plus facile de le mettre à la poubelle que d'organiser la filière de recyclage. Donc voilà, donc pour synthétiser et la première question et la deuxième, les enjeux sont complexes, et en fait il faut faire de la mesure, parce que on peut faire des choses pires en voulant faire les choses bien, et finalement faire des transferts de pollution qui sont péjorants pour l'environnement et la planète.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting, and you are anticipating to the third question. So are all recycled textiles ecologically interesting, and why? And how could we improve their impact on the environment? Maybe Thibaut.
Du coup, je vais prendre la question, en effet. Non, c'est vrai qu'en effet, déjà, il y a le sujet du mix de matières vierges et recyclées, c'est-à-dire qu'une matière 100% recyclée aujourd'hui reste une sorte de grand label qui, derrière, en fait, est un écran de fumée, c'est très compliqué aujourd'hui d'avoir une matière 100% recyclée sans déchets et qui ne pollue pas. Et puis, en effet, il y a ce sujet de l'énergie, puisque, évidemment, le recyclage, ça pollue à la fois dans la collecte, c'est-à-dire à la fois, et notamment la collecte post-consumer, ça pollue dans le tri, puisqu'aujourd'hui le phénomène de tri est aujourd'hui en train de s'automatiser, mais aujourd'hui c'est pas le cas. C'est aujourd'hui des gens qui sont sur des chaînes et qui trient à la main les vêtements. Et puis ensuite c'est un marché très international, c'est-à-dire qu'aujourd'hui on parle notamment aujourd'hui avec la loi AGEC en France, sur le territoire français, du sujet du recyclage, du sujet de l'économie circulaire, et c'est très bien. Aujourd'hui il faut se rendre compte que l'industrie du recyclage, et notamment l'industrie du recyclage textile, c'est un marché mondialisé avec beaucoup de transport, beaucoup de stocks qui vont dans plusieurs endroits. Donc aujourd'hui, moi je suis très critique, aujourd'hui c'est mon rôle d'être le poil à gratter sur le sujet du recyclage. Ce qui est sûr, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, dire à un consommateur que c'est 100% recyclé, que c'est issu de l'économie circulaire, c'est un fait. Aujourd'hui, c'est pas forcément moins polluant, en effet, pour un certain nombre d'éléments qu'on a cités précédemment. Il n'empêche que sur les sujets de biodiversité, par exemple, on va essayer de transférer la production de matière vierge vers une matière dite recyclée. C'est des enjeux très complexes qui dépendent. Aujourd'hui, c'est très difficile d'ailleurs d'avoir en calcul ACV, LCA, c'est très difficile de comparer l'impact entre une matière recyclée et une matière vierge. En effet, c'est des sujets de filière. Le slip français aujourd'hui est en train de travailler sur un underwear recyclé aussi, et ils nous font part eux aussi de leurs problématiques, c'est-à-dire à la fois consommateurs, à la fois industriels, à la fois business model, puisque pareil, il ne faut pas non plus l'oublier, la matière recyclée coûte aujourd'hui plus cher, et du coup il faut aussi incentiver les marques, et je serais intéressé d'ailleurs d'avoir ton point de vue sur le sujet du business model derrière le recyclage, puisque à la fois les acteurs du recyclage et à la fois les marques aujourd'hui peinent à trouver un business model viable.
Merci. Anyone else on this question?
One more thing.
Yes.
I think that we're in the very beginning of these circular supply chains, so it will be more expensive. We're at the moment shipping some waste. For us, local always gets priority over recycling. It's like the decision hierarchy of the best recycling use case. Local always wins. But we are currently shipping waste from Asia to Europe to chemical recycling plants. Is this ideal? No. And if we're still doing it in 2 or 3 years' time, we're doing something really wrong. But you've got to go from zero to hero, and you've got to solve those steps and improve. And every year that we start scaling, the technologies improve, the prices will become more competitive. The LCAs of these recycled textiles will improve as well. And especially when there's the renewables that can feed this industry. And this is a huge issue for a lot of the chemical recyclers. It's where can they find a location to build plants that has a good renewable energy source.
Moi, si je peux compléter, si je peux compléter juste un petit peu. Nous, on a adressé le sujet d'une façon très locale. On a la chance de maîtriser complet, parce qu'on tisse, on tricote, on teint, on confectionne, on sérigraphie, tout ça sur le territoire local. Et nos plus gros partenaires sont dans les Hauts-de-France. Et donc, du coup, effectivement, c'est plus simple d'adresser le sujet du recyclage. Et donc, du coup, quand on a voulu microniser, donc transformer en poudre nos chutes de coton, pour pouvoir les inclure et du coup enlever de la charge d'acétate, par exemple, on a réussi à le faire sur le territoire local. Et donc, du coup, là, pour le coup, quand on a modélisé l'analyse de cycle de vie, il n'y a pas photo sur le fait qu'on ait fait quelque chose dans la limite de nos connaissances actuelles, parce qu'effectivement, on n'est pas à l'abri d'avoir des nouveaux enjeux qu'on n'avait pas perçus. En tout cas, on arrive quand même à modéliser des choses. Et de la même façon, quand on utilise notre fil de coton recyclé, polyester recyclé, là, ce n'est pas nos chutes qu'on recycle, c'est notre filateur qui collecte dans son environnement soit des chutes vierges, soit des vêtements issus du coup de son environnement, de façon à ce qu'on reste dans une filière locale. Et là, on sait qu'on réduit par 2, quand on compare un coton vierge classique avec notre filière de coton recyclé, polyester recyclé, sur tous les indicateurs, que ce soit les émissions de gaz à effet de serre, tous les indicateurs sont divisés par 2, à l'exception près que la pollution par microplastique aujourd'hui ne fait pas partie des indicateurs qui sont dans les analyses de cycle de vie. Et donc aujourd'hui, on ne dit pas que c'est mieux ni que c'est moins bien, on ne sait pas. Et donc, faute de savoir, du coup, on a décidé de faire des choses. Mais en tout cas, nous, ça fait 10 ans qu'on recycle. On a quand même vraiment avancé depuis 10 ans. Et effectivement, oui, autant se bouger quand même, plutôt que se dire c'est trop compliqué, on n'y va pas. Mais ça nécessite des acteurs qui soient ultra engagés et qui dépensent beaucoup de temps et d'énergie pour ne pas lâcher. Parce qu'effectivement, à partir du moment où on innove, de toute façon, on se prend des murs.
Mustafain, maybe. I guess you have something to say about it.
Yeah, for what I call, there are points that I agree with and points that I actually disagree with fundamentally. So I've given a couple of these talks over the past couple of months, and the localization aspect keeps coming into to play here. That having things being done locally is beneficial. Yeah, I agree with that in principle. One of the reasons that our CYCLO fibers have such a low environmental impact rating, whatever's the lowest environmental impact rating, is because we do a lot of stuff locally. But I'm going to have to diverge here for a second, because that's Bangladesh, where a lot of clothes are made, and we're selling to Walmarts, Primarks, Zara's, H&M's, these are the biggest retailers in the world. So sometimes I feel like people are missing the forest for trees. I don't know if that's the French saying or not, but we're missing the bigger picture here, which is climate change in general, water resources in general. And in order to actually make an impact on that on a large scale, you need a global solution. And again, I lived in New York. I moved to Bangladesh to do this thing. And I'm not of a proponent of getting rid of fast fashion because I see the benefit that it has to the economy of countries like Bangladesh, which is somewhat dependent on it. And there's a lot of social issues, like people in Bangladesh don't give a shit if it's 2 degrees warmer in 100 years. They care that it's hot right now and the rains aren't coming right now. So they want to move their wealth earning from something that's weather dependent to something that's more predictable, like industrialization. So I'm pro-industrialization. However, there is an environmental cost with that. And our thing is, while we industrialize and develop, to take all these things into account while we do that. Now, my point about globalization versus localization is twofold. Is that if you go to basic, like your first economic course, why things became spread out, it's also because of specialization. I mean, I'm from the U.S. Like, if I buy some clothes from the U.S., made in the U.S., it's not necessarily that great. Like, people are making clothes in Bangladesh and China because we're good at it. Mechanical recycling has been around in Spain and France and stuff for a while, but it like nobody cared. And then Bangladesh, people care because we're good at it now because we have the best quality waste. So there are serious macroeconomic ramifications that we're talking to that come into play when we're talking, we get tunnel vision in this sense. So, yeah.
I totally agree. We certainly need global solutions to such a global issue, and we are expecting from countries such as Bangladesh to do the job we haven't done in many years. So, but it's also true that we need local solution for other kind of business. And maybe you wanted to say something.
Yeah, a lot of things I can fully agree. So there was something about it's too expensive recycling. Recycled fibers are more expensive. Of course, this is a kind of economy of scale. Today we do not have, well, we have mechanical recycling, that what I would say it's recycling on basis of the fiber, because then the bottle industry has a total different so recycling on the fiber level, this is, I think, well established. But all the others need to get improved. And the thing is, we have no materials because frequently textiles are exported to Africa. This is the second law of waste management. Waste goes the cheapest way. And if it's cheaper to export textile waste, telling this is second-hand close to Africa and dump it somewhere, if this is cheaper than recycling it here, then there is no chance that more companies will spend money, invest money in building up plants in recycling fibers on a polymer level or on a monomer level. So, and of course, if these companies are just in small, it will be too expensive. So we need to keep the materials here and recycle it here. And of course, recycling is fine. So I make my projects. I fund a lot of students with EU projects and with national projects, but I think that we have to reduce the growth rate. Since 1970, the production rate of synthetic fibers was growing 5.6% per year. So if we continue this growth, we have 200 million tons by 2038. And even if we recycle 50% in 16 years, then we have the same problem as we have today. So I think if growth continues, growth will compensate all technological advances. Of course, this is against my business model as a university to develop recycling process, but from a logical point of view, it makes no sense just to to make more recycling processes, but also recycling needs energy. Even if we go, in particular, if we go down to the monomer level, because then we have to redo the polymerization, the spinning of fibers, yarn making, weaving, knitting, dyeing, and so on. So yes, so this is, I not fully agree with you, but yeah, so once I was asked at the company Lenzing, which they produce the tensile fiber, what is the best fiber? And I said the best fiber is the fiber that has not been produced. So they didn't want to hear that, of course.
So now, how can industry players organize themselves to support and benefit from progress in textile recycling right now?
Peut-être je peux prendre la parole,
oui.
Parce que du coup on a créé la Fédération de la mode circulaire assez récemment, il y a quelques mois, justement dans ces questionnements-là, c'est-à-dire de se poser la question qu'aujourd'hui mode circulaire ça veut dire quoi? On a d'un côté des marques qui se posent des questions d'innovation ou en tout cas de sourcing, c'est-à-dire de se poser la question où est-ce que je vais chercher ma matière, est-ce qu'elle va tenir dans le temps, qu'est-ce que mes consommateurs vont penser, tous ces sujets-là qu'ont les marques sur des sujets marketing et production. De l'autre côté on a les recycleurs qui sont en effet, en tout cas en France, en Europe, qui sont des petits acteurs. Aujourd'hui, au maximum en France, on peut recycler 20 000 tonnes par an. C'est la plus grande usine. À l'opposé, on a des acteurs qui font 500 000 tonnes à l'étranger, donc on est vraiment des tout petits. Il y a des acteurs du luxe qui sont sous la loi AGEC et qui ont des problèmes parce qu'ils ne peuvent plus détruire leurs invendus comme c'était avant et du coup qui doivent trouver des solutions. Donc bref, en tout cas, on a plein d'acteurs qui ont des questions spécifiques et en fait qui doivent rentrer dans des systèmes de partenariat. C'est pour ça qu'on a créé la Fédération de la mode circulaire il y a quelques mois. Et on se rend compte qu'il y a un vrai besoin de tous les acteurs de rentrer en contact. On voit que les recycleurs, moi j'étais notamment dans le board du recyclage et en l'occurrence ils avaient besoin rien que de se connaître, de partager des bonnes pratiques, notamment sur la reverse logistique, sur la collecte, sur plein de choses. Et donc aujourd'hui, et on voit aux États-Unis, quelques semaines après, qu'il y a justement American Circular Textiles, je crois, qui est une fédération aussi qui s'ouvre là-bas, notamment avec les acteurs de la seconde main, donc The Real Wheel, Save Your Wardrobe, and so on. Et du coup, c'est assez marrant de voir émerger ces nouvelles organisations de gouvernance sur le recyclage, justement en se disant, si on veut aller plus vite aujourd'hui, on est obligé de sortir du jeu concurrentiel classique et collaborer pour répondre à des enjeux qui sont en effet extrêmement grands aujourd'hui et qui, je vous rejoins totalement sur le fait d'augmenter les volumes. Aujourd'hui, il y a des volumes qui explosent et du coup, il y a des marques aussi qui, si elles doivent faire de la mode circulaire et que demain on dit le textile recyclé, attention, c'est bien, mais c'est pas assez, elles doivent aussi trouver des business models circulaires et ça, c'est tout ce qui va être seconde main, location, réparation, etc. Et ça va être des gros enjeux si on veut en tout cas découpler la croissance des sujets de volume et en effet de ne pas surdimensionner. Et d'ailleurs, sur ce sujet très précis, il y avait des acteurs du recyclage qui étaient là il y a quelques jours là, pour le board recyclage et qui disaient attention à ne pas trop investir dans des usines, notamment en Europe, et à surdimensionner parce qu'à ce moment-là, on sera en demande de stock et donc on va incentiver et développer encore la production. Et c'est le cas sur le plastique, par exemple, sur le PET, sur les bouteilles plastiques, etc., où on a investi des millions pour créer des usines de recyclage d'emballage. Et aujourd'hui, on se retrouve un peu, finalement, à se mordre la queue, puisque on est en train de produire des emballages pour alimenter des usines qui vont produire de la matière recyclée. Et ça, a priori, sur l'industrie du recyclage textile, il faut qu'on s'en prémunisse assez rapidement et qu'on se pose la question de pourquoi on recycle aujourd'hui. Parce que le sujet du recyclage, c'est évidemment une solution à une surproduction aujourd'hui qu'il faut endiguer. Et donc, il faut vraiment aller au sujet de la production. Parce que si on voit le recyclage comme une solution un peu miracle et comme une solution en soi ou une fin en soi, là, on se sera trompé de combat.
Anyone else? I think we still have time anyway for a question from the audience, but I would like to first ask our speakers if they want to add something about the way we can organize or reorganize the industry to better face the waste issue that we have, and also maybe add something about the research and development projects that maybe some new entities are working on. Luna?
Yeah. So yeah, I fully agree with Thibaut, and just to add up on that, I think that here we really need a systemic change, so it requires effort from everyone along the textile chain, so not only the industry, but also like citizen and policy makers. And talking about policy makers, it's also like where we have to fund more research, innovation, recycling technologies to allow also that the whole chain is working hand in hand for a common goal. But I'm sure Andreas has a view on that as well.
You received the support of the European Commission for your researches, right?
Yeah, because there are a lot of mixed textiles on the market, and we try to develop procedures to make these mixtures recyclable, because PET bottles are easy to recycle, paper is easy to recycle. So PET fibers is the same as PET bottles, paper is the same as cotton, it's cellulosic material. So if it's mixed, it's not recyclable. So we need to develop a process to get rid of one material and to be able to recycle the other one. This can work with 2, maybe with 3, but not with 4 or more. So we have, of course, to reduce the complexity. And the other question is, which should be the best fiber? Okay, we know cotton is a nice fiber, it's biodegradable, but its production is not so nice. Of course, we have the man-made viscose, man-made cellulosics. They are, let's say, better from their footprint, but you cannot produce, you cannot fulfill the demand. Currently, we have 7 million tons of these fibers, and we need 100 million tons. So the big player is polyester, and the question is, well, it's you cannot solve the microplastic problem when you use polyester. No difference whether it's recycled polyester or virgin polyester. So we need other materials, other polymers that are thermoplastic, that can be processed on the same machines where you can produce, on the same lines where you can produce polyester, like PLA. But the question is, how can we get the material from? So it must not be in competition with food. So we need some agricultural residues or material derived from waste. And this is, yes, I think the urgent question that the European fiber industry is currently working on. And of course, transparency. So if you buy fibers that from somewhere else, from China, with the label recycled, are they really recycled? So currently, no one knows. So I think this is traceability and information, and yeah, which polymer can be used. So these are the most urgent questions from the industry, and of course then from the recycling perspective, because then you have to adapt.
But if we find a way to transform our washing machines to no more create waste from polyester, what will happen?
Well, it's not a washing machine. You have a sewage water plant that can remove the fibers from the waste stream, but unless you put the sewage slugs on the field. But there are a lot of countries that have no wastewater treatment plants, and a lot of countries, they do not even have washing machines, so the people wash in the rivers. And the second thing is, of course, you will disperse fibers in the air, airborne fibers, so you can fibers on the Mount Everest already. So this you cannot tackle with improved washing machines or filters on the washing machines. Maybe you can mitigate the problem in other weaving or knitting technologies, but finally you can also only solve the problem if the fiber is biodegradable.
Thank you.
The problem with microplastics? It's a question.
Your question is, what the problem?
I know that there's microplastics. I know they're everywhere. Yeah. What are the health risks? Like, she's drinking water from a plastic bottle. She's drinking water from a plastic bottle. I understand they might not get the plastic into the water, but what is the problem? Like, I'm just trying to ask the question, is that we're talking about microplastics in the ocean while people are still drinking water from plastic bottles.
On le sait pas.
I know. So sorry.
Better like this. Much
like,
better.
Again, I feel like it's a missing the forest for the trees problem here. Like, what is the long-term problem with microplastic? It's a genuine question I'm asking.
Well, it's already in our food chain.
Yeah, and
it shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't be there, but are people dying from it left, right, and center?
On le sait pas pour le moment.
The problem is,
mesuré.
yeah, that we need, I think, like more time to have the real effect, and that today it's microplastic, but the next form will be nanoform, and nanoform can get into your blood. And even though today we don't have the big picture, we can still guess that it's not good to have microplastic in our blood. So I think we just...
But I understand it's a question of viewpoints, because if you are in a situation of surviving in your everyday life, you don't think about it.
Sure, and I agree.
But
we
it's
still
so
drink
true that
water from
we are
plastic
now,
bottles, yeah.
but we are now facing a global problem that will have an effect on anyone on the earth, and certainly a bigger effect on the most fragile people in poor countries. So that's why we are trying to don't make the same mistakes that we have already made in the past, discussing of the problem of the waste generated by the industry. But of course, it's obvious that we can't, like right now, find a very satisfying solution to a problem that is already present for several years and that we have not yet really studied in details. But at least we can ask the questions and try to see how we could work on it. And it's so true that no, but it's thank you for posing the question, because it's also the question that many people are currently posing themselves around the world, and they don't automatically pose it such as you have done right now.
But
yes.
the nanofibers also can enter our cells.
Uh-huh.
So this is a real problem.
But we still don't know the effect it will have, though.
Yeah. I think maybe the audience has questions right now. So.
But just before, so we're talking about microplastic, but I think here it's important to also talk about microfibers in general, because it has been proven that if cellulosic fibers are just loaded with bad pigments and dyes, then in the end in your organism it will have the same effect. So I think it's important to also like broaden the problem and voila.
So hello.
Yes.
So am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you just put your micro like this so that we can really hear you?
Yeah. I'm from India. I'm from a company called Indocount Industries Limited, and we are the biggest company on the globe for the bed sheeting. We produce like 153 million meter fabric a year of wider width. We are into home textile, and almost 21% business or the fabric comes from recycled stuff, which we do. 79% is cotton and 21% is mix. It's a blend of cotton and recycled stuff. The biggest problem we face during buying and selling, like we sell to almost 54 countries. We are the exporter. The biggest problem is everyone is speaking about recycled and sustainable and all those buzzwords, but no one is ready to pay a single extra penny. That's the biggest problem. When we go and say like this fabric has like 25% or 30% recycled stuff, and you need to pay like 5% extra, nobody is ready to pay a single extra penny out of their pocket. So everyone wants to have sustainable stuff, recycled stuff, but nobody is ready to pay. And point number 2 is nowadays, other than recycling, there are solutions which makes the polyester degradable. Like there is a company, I think you have mentioned, CYCLO. CYCLO from US. They have ingredients, like when you put 3% of that ingredient during the master batch, during extrusion, which makes the polyester degradable. We do we are using that CYCLO stuff in some of our product. Then there is another Swiss company called Ocean Safe. They have a specific polyester where they have changed the morphology of the polyester and in the polyester chain, which makes it degradable, and there is no toxic content generated out of this this degradability of the polyester. So these are 2 points, and third point is about the segregation. Someone mentioned about the segregation. Segregation is the biggest problem because when we take post consumers waste, it's very difficult to recycle it. Very, very difficult because it has lots of mix like PC or acrylic, cotton, nylon. So segregation is the biggest headache, and which we need to solve as a team. We all are talking about recycling, sustainability, but nobody is paying attention on those pain points. Why I'm speaking because I am from manufacturing background, and I interact with customers. I visited US many a time. We have like market week there twice a year. So everyone wants, like Walmart. We do business with almost all retailers, including Walmart, Macy's, Kohl's, JCPenney, all US retailers. And everyone wants to convert their stuff to the sustainable stuff. Everyone has given target to their purchase team to convert everything to the sustainable. The thing is, but nobody is participating on cost front. That is the biggest pain point. And we like, as someone mentioned about the wood-based fiber, but as per me, wood-based fibers are not sustainable. You're cutting the tree to make the fiber. That is again not good for the Mother Earth.
I would.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Anyone, Nin, you want to answer this complex?
I see that brands are doing an okay job at showing the demand for recycled fibers and textiles. They're saying they want it. It's becoming more popular. So they've got that hat on pretty well. But there's another hat that they need to wear in a circular supply chain. It's not just a take. It's also what do you do with the stuff afterwards as well. And this waste hat is not really on very well. So what we see, because we work a lot with textile waste streams, is if there's so much that brands can do right now by mapping their waste, understanding it, setting targets around it, because that automatically makes it more interesting to spend that extra couple of cents on a recycled yarn or fabric, because of it also affects your other KPIs and targets around your waste management if you've traced that to recycling and then brought it in. Another thing we see as well is there's a lot of opportunity for pricing mechanisms. At the moment, we see cotton waste is sold really high. I mean, sometimes way too high for a waste. We advocate that factories should always earn a fair price for their waste. They should never be forced to release their waste for free by a large brand. It's just not going to work. But in some countries, like in India, we see the prices are so inflated, and that then makes that recycled product too expensive. So when a brand is actually responsibly looking after their waste, then it opens up a lot of opportunities to then also reincorporate those textiles back into your supply chain.
But also there are more and more brands that are ready to pay this cost, yours, even if it's at a small. But I guess your clients as well.
No.
No, not really.
That's the point.
Il faut changer les business models en fait.
Yeah, I mean.
You both agree? Who wants to start?
No, I mean, I just like maybe it's because like my factory and my system was like not a spinning mill that started using recycled fibers. We built it around recycled fibers, which is why I brought out the point of specialization early when we're talking about the globalization versus localization concept, because specialization is what makes things cheaper. So the percentage of volume that I sell because it's sustainable and more expensive is a fraction of what I sell is because it's sustainable and the same price, if not cheaper. How I got started was actually with discounters, like your Kicks, your Littles, like your dollar stores and stuff like that. They were buying the recycled stuff. Like I show them a sweater. This is 100% cotton. This is like $3 or whatever. And I have a recycled option. You want to see it? Like, no, we don't give a shit about recycled. It's like, okay, I have a 70-30 option. This is $250. It's like, I'll take the $250 one. It's a little bit rougher. It's a little bit not as like bright, but it's $250. I'll take it. That's how we got started. And so like specialization into making the stuff affordable, because like, yeah, we have some hope with Gen Z that they might be more willing to pay that upcharge, maybe. At least they're talking about it. And you can see some of their buying trends are also going towards not necessarily recycled, but secondhand also. They're like, that market is kind of growing, which is good. So the price issue is not going to be, like, the brand can't wave its wand and make things like pay more. We're dealing with an inflationary cycle right now where like everything is more expensive. It doesn't matter. So having, like, it's a really tough problem, but we have to do it. Is we have to make the safe stuff more sustainable, but not more expensive. And like, I'm pretty good at that, but I don't know about everybody else.
Or we can also increase the price of what is not sustainable.
Yes, thanks to the government also.
Ouais. Non, mais c'est tout le sujet aujourd'hui de l'évolution de la régulation. Enfin, nous, on travaille à la Fédération de la mode circulaire justement sur une action de plaidoyer et de légal. On voit qu'en France, la loi économie circulaire a fait quand même beaucoup changer les mentalités dans les entreprises, spécifiquement du luxe, puisqu'aujourd'hui, nous, on n'a pas de gros acteurs du retail en France aujourd'hui. Mais l'Europe, demain, va quand même faire passer des législations qui seront très contraignantes pour les acteurs européens. Et la filière, enfin REP en français, donc responsabilité élargie des producteurs, va quand même inciter très certainement les marques et notamment les acteurs qui ne changeront pas. Enfin, je veux dire, aujourd'hui, H&M n'a aucun intérêt à faire payer un t-shirt de 3 à 5 euros parce qu'il est recyclé. Donc, ils ne le feront pas. Et d'ailleurs, il y a des acteurs du recyclage qui disent d'ailleurs qu'ils ne disent pas qu'ils vendent un tissu recyclé et qu'ils le vendent au prix du vierge et qui se disent bon bah c'est bon, on écoule nos stocks. Enfin, on en est devenu à des points aussi parfois complètement absurdes. Et en effet, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, l'autorégulation sur ces sujets ne fonctionnera pas et la loi et l'évolution de la loi sera essentielle. Et
l'éducation. Moi, je crois fort à l'éducation. Ce sera peut-être trop tard, mais en tout cas de la pédagogie. Et puis après, je vais je vais mettre un pavé dans la mare. En fait, on est tous schizophrènes. On n'a plus besoin de produire de fringues. En fait, on en a déjà suffisamment. Et donc nos enjeux, c'est aussi de la pédagogie sur apprendre à vendre moins. Quand je parlais de business model, ça passera par la décroissance de nos entreprises. Enfin, il y a pas photo. On peut déjà tous. Oui, je sais.
No, if it's true, I think it's true, but also it's not matching with the current global economical situation, and so at this stage what we can say is that all efforts are important, and it's true that working on transforming what is already existing is something which makes sense, certainly, even if we understood that it's not the easiest way to do things right now and for the future as well, but still we also have to, I think, to defend the value of our businesses, and the work which is behind the textile products has to be paid at a certain point, and that's why maybe your work on regulation is so important, because of course in the global economy businesses can't make the jobs, obviously not, so because they are all competing against each other. So thank you everyone for your participation. Maybe we have time for one additional question. Maybe someone in the audience wants to ask a question to our speakers. No one?
Bonjour à tous, alors, je vais faire en français. Je suis Claire Deslandes-Mortier de la société Conscious Fashion qui a un bureau de conseil et de formation. Et justement, je voudrais rejoindre Christèle sur le besoin d'éducation puisque les personnes, même dans les entreprises aujourd'hui, ne savent pas quelle matière se tourner tout simplement, quel choix arbitrer justement qui va être la solution pour anticiper. Moi je parle d'éco-conception, hein, clairement, de pouvoir choisir les bonnes matières pour pouvoir dans le futur pouvoir les recycler, et puis même à une échelle plus grande pour les sociétés, de s'inscrire dans une économie circulaire mais plus globale aussi, d'avoir d'autres critères que la croissance en effet par la vente, mais aussi par l'addition évidemment de fonctionnalités, de réparation, etc. Il y a d'autres enjeux aussi beaucoup plus grande qu'une société doit prendre en compte aujourd'hui. Donc ce n'était pas forcément une question, mais plutôt une réflexion plus globale. Voilà.
Thank you. Any additional suggestion or? She was just saying that the educational part is very important because even inside companies, there are many workers who are not educated enough to choose the right materials regarding the ecological criteria. So that was more a remark than a question, actually.
But there are a lot of consultation companies. If you're interested, there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of information. We should do a better job at university for sure, but I find there's almost too many people repeating the same work that other people have done. Oh, here's a design guide, here's another design guide. We've got design guides. It's about implementing them and sharing that out. The knowledge is there, you know.
Yeah, I would agree that it's not for a lack of I mean, the education is getting there. It wasn't there maybe 4 or 5 years ago. He said 4 years ago was the big turning point. It's there. Actually, what I'm seeing right now, that the problem with adaptation is not even financing. It's people willing to take on that liability for an unproven industry. Because there are technologies out there that are developing, like things that are getting past pilot stage now into stages where they can scale. Where a VC or like a private equity firm, their models are to, you know, take $30–40 million and spread it across 30 companies and hope one of them comes out with a technology that works. Okay, what if you have to put $100 million into that technology, which is the first of its kind right now? So like, I'm at that stage right now. I'm trying to think is like, how much liability am I willing to take for like a new technology to be adapted? I am willing to take that risk, but I'm younger. Like, that's different. So people who are funding the stuff and people who are taking those funds right now, there is a gap there also.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And yes, I think we have finished. Yes, it's already 3. And if you want to share more or continue the discussion with the audience, please do so, because I think we also have people from the industry in the audience who would be interested to know more about your businesses. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.